Live a consistent Christian life in front of that person. Now, I say it that way because you know what? There are times each one of us have our struggles. Each one of us have a time where, you know what? Pastor Brent used to lose his temper all the time. Okay? Now, when he's in front of the one he's telling the story to, he makes sure he doesn't lose his temper. You understand what I'm saying? We have our struggles. But I'm going to tell you this. The person you are praying for, do all that you can to be consistent in your Christian walk, in your Christian talk, in your Christian showing. That person is reading you like a book, and it should be the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? It should be a Christ-like life, always in front of that person. Matthew chapter 5. Jesus said this, "You are the light that gives light to the world. A city that is built on a hill cannot be hidden. And people don't hide a light under a bowl. They put it on a lampstand, so the light shines for all the people in the house. In the same way, you should be a light for other people. Live so that they will see the good things you do and will praise your Father in heaven." Live a consistent Christian life to the best of your ability. Now guess what? Your prayer list is getting a little longer. Now I'm praying for the church people. I'm praying things that are happening in my church. I'm praying for a specific person to tell a story to. And God, please help me to be Christ-like when I am in front of them all the time. Now, I don't follow you all the time because then you got to always live a Christian life. A third step, or a third tip. Build bridges to others. Jesus, if you remember the story of Zacchaeus, what did he do? He walked into this huge crowd, Jesus did. He looks up in a sycamore tree and he says, "Zacchaeus, come down." Why? I'm going to your house. Zacchaeus, we're going to have some story time together. Zacchaeus, we're going to do some Christian, Christ-like work together. Zacchaeus, bring all your sinner friends to dinner too. Because they were there. They were all sitting around waiting to hear the story. Now here's the thing. Jesus did not say, okay, I can only dine with the religious elders. I can only dine with those who have washed the bowl 3 times, and the goblet 4 times, and the spoon 2 times, and washed their hands 5 times. I can only dine with those. Jesus said, all who are weary, come to me. I have a story to tell. I'm going to bridge the gap. See, a lot of times we're like, ooh, did you see that sinner over there? I don't even want a bridge. I want the Grand Canyon between me and that sinner. And Jesus is saying, no, bridge the gap. Connect them. Don't be a part of them. But how else are you going to tell the story unless you start building up relationships that are, remember, you're going to be Christ-like. That's the thing. If you're Christ-like, you can build a bridge. The fourth thing that you can do, learn the gospel. Learn the gospel. And not for debating. Not for you can do this and say this. Learn the gospel so that you can live the gospel, so that you can share the gospel. And I tell you this, you have your own way of doing it. I gave you just a quick example of, the birth of Jesus, and I gave you that line. I'll tell you what, there's people that can take the milk packs and share it out. There are people that can go to Starbucks and buy the most expensive coffee, you name it, and you can have it. And they're building that bridge. And what they're doing is they are doing it in a sense where they can sit down and have coffee and say, you know what? What has God done? Has God done anything for you? All it takes is a chance to open up a door. How are you doing? And I'm going to tell you this. You can have non-Christian friends that'll sit there and they will have heartache, and they will be happy if you will just say, you know what? I'm going to pray for you. That's part of the gospel. See, you don't have to sit there and go from the beginning to Genesis to Revelation. You don't have to do that. Sit down with a cup of coffee and pray for someone. And start there. I say that because you know what? How many of you have taken the Bible and gone, I'm going to sit down today and read Genesis to Revelation? No. No. You know what? in preparation for the sermon, I was struggling for a moment, and I'm like, you know what, God? Last week we were talking about, there, it just flew out the window. Last week we were talking about, does anybody remember? Ooh, that went right out the window. I know we talked about me being one who equips you. And I started thinking, God, how am I going to continue that? How am I going to continue to be one who equips? And I got to thinking, and I opened up 1 John, and it's like, wow, life appeared, and in the beginning. And then all of a sudden it started talking about what I can do as a person. I'm like, that's it. What can you do as a person? Know the gospel. Take a little. I took 4 verses. I sat all week just working on 4 verses and got a ton out of it. Know the gospel. The 5th thing you can do, watch for opportunities, or watch for openings to share Christ's word. So that means you can look for anyone. When you see that door open up, start to use it. Start to share it. The 6th thing to do, if there isn't an opportunity that comes your way naturally, I like this. Create one. Create opportunities. Have an initiative. Remember when I talked about the enthusiasm? If you have the enthusiasm about the gospel, you will find ways and create ways to share the story. There are churches, I'm going to tell you how I know this. There are churches. There's a church, and I can't even think, it's Shorewood or something like that has done movies like Facing the Giant. They have done, one of their later, they did, it was about marriage. Fireproof, that deals with relationships. You talk about building a bridge. They shared the gospel, dealing with divorce, dealing with family issues, dealing with heartache. They created opportunities. And then the last thing, this is the easiest one, the easiest tip is to leave the results to God. You just do your part. You just tell the story the best way you can and let God do it. Let God deal with it. God will have results. You may never even see them. You may be just the one who planted the seed. But I'm telling you this, if you leave it in God's hands, there will be godly results. Verse 3, we proclaim to you what we have seen and heard, so that you also may have fellowship with us. And our fellowship is with the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ. You have to have a motivation to share. There was a Billy Sunday. Billy Sunday was an evangelist, a great evangelist, and he was going to a large city. And he as he was in his prayer time, he was praying. There are souls that need to know about Jesus Christ. There are souls that are having problems. There are souls that are living in sin in this big city. So he calls the mayor up, and he says, is there anyone in particular that you know of, one sin, that needs help? Let me know. So what does the mayor do? He takes the phone book of this large city and sends it to Billy Sunday. And I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. Talk about motivation. Here is every name in the city that needs help. Yet Billy Sunday, and that didn't stop him. In 2006, a movie was made called The End of the Spear. It's based on a true story. In 1956, 5 men went into the jungle down in Ecuador, and they were missionaries. Obviously, they wanted to share the story of Jesus Christ. And they flew into, they're called the Wodanis now, and they were the most violent tribe in the world. And I was telling Pastor Mark this morning, I have not seen the movie. I've just read the article on the true story. There's actual interviews and stuff like that. And these people would actually have killings within their own tribe. They were that violent. And then if you were a foreigner, it was even worse. Thus, the end of the spear even tells it all. It was a violent end to these 5 men's life. They flew in, they're trying to share the gospel, they're giving gifts, and yet, because of a lie, these men were speared and hacked to death. Here's the thing. They had a motive to share the gospel. And it didn't matter what danger was in front of them. And so I ask you this very simple question. Do you have a motive? I'm not asking you to go and die. I'm asking you to have a motive that no matter what is out there, no matter how your friends act, you are willing to share the gospel. What happens when we share? Verse 4. We write this to make our joy complete. Those who know the gospel know the joy. Sister Jane, when she was reading the scripture and she talked about the good news that was there, I could hear, she had a joy and an understanding of what she was reading. When you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, there is a joy. And I'm going to tell you this, that as John was writing here, he found a greater joy, a complete joy, when he decided to share the gospel. I don't know where joy is. I'll tell you what, it might be because you're not sharing the gospel. It might be you let opportunity slip away. We need to be creating opportunities. We need to look for more opportunities. We need to simply be buying a cup of coffee and sharing the best way we can. And because of God, your joy will be complete. Complete. Does it make sense? It almost boggles my mind for a minute. Can you imagine complete joy? For some of us, just a little inkling. There's a complete joy that is there for you if you will just start sharing Jesus Christ with whoever you can. We're going to go into a time of communion. I'm going to say this before we go to communion. I would pray that one person with the gospel do to the best of their ability, so you can start to claim. The verses in those verses just about to testify, to pray. And I don't mean, I'm not saying let's do it. Let's just testify God did for him last week. And I'm saying this, you testify, you're careful, people names for you, God will in your life. You can look last week, what God did for me. I know, he said in 1976, it came. I never all said it. He said, after praying, and that's what communion is. Communion is you're communing with your God. He broke his body for you, he shed his blood for you, so that you could be forgiven, and so that you could testify. It's like when someone takes the bread and eats it, when someone takes the juice and drinks it, and I see you doing it, I know that you are in a relationship with Jesus Christ. I see the story. Pastor Mark, will you come forward? A time to proclaim. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Starting at verse 26. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes. Therefore, whoever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. It is so important to know the story. It is more important to know you're right with God. So we're going to sing 2 verses before we take communion. During this time of singing the 2 verses, you don't have to sing. You can be in prayer, asking God, Lord, forgive me. Make sure I am right with you. I want to take this communion in a worthy manner. I want to be so right so that I can proclaim until you come again. I can proclaim my relationship with you to others. In Jesus' name, shall we sing?